Should I do a little jingle?
You do whatever you
should
want.
I do? Just like do 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 do. That's the new jingle,
Welcome
guys.
to the Sweaty Podcast.
The sweaty. It's a stuffy room. What can we
Welcome
say?
to the sweatiest podcast at COA.
It's the middle of winter in the Acadia National Park, and we're sweating.
Because our heat makes it 85 degrees in here.
Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, welcome to the Notebook Podcast, Jeffrey. Where we talk about what others don't. I am working Daley, which you know, because we are friends. And today we're talking about you, which is lovely.
Oh, me.
It's one of my favorite topics, actually.
Oh, it's my favorite topic too.
Oh god. Okay. We've been so chaotic. We can't start this or schedule it. It's great. We're having a
For all of our listeners, we thrive in chaos.
Yeah, we really do. There's a compatible chaos though, which is
Including
why
making our own chaos.
Yeah, and I think that's why we kept canceling on each other, is just because we both had an understanding of spoon theory in a way that others just don't respect it, and we're like, I can't, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Which
and I know how many spoons I wanted to give this.
Yeah.
Because I know how chaotic we are. And I'm like, my chaos spoons aren't adding up.
I know, yeah, no, you really need that. Because I've been thinking about, like, we've talked quite a bit about this, but, like, the juggling, prioritizing, like, self-care and showing up and the kind of connections that replenish your spoons and don't take from them. And when you're just used to very self-sacrificing situations, that can be difficult because I'm still going to show up in the way that my work needs and my classes need, and then I don't have the spoons for what I need.
Yeah.
And
well, this is, and we might actually end up getting into this, but
yeah.
This gets into my disbelief that there's actually no such thing as a work versus life balance.
Yeah,
there's
I had that in my notes because
only
you brought that up.
life balance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no such thing as if you use certain energy for work that you'll have energy left over for personal life. It's you have one bucket of energy. In my case, I say I have one bucket of Jeffrey energy. Some will be taken up by my professional life. Some will be taken up by my personal life, and I just have to recognize that it's all coming from the same source.
Yeah.
But that has also led me to much healthier balance, rather than seeing these as two separate energies. It's just my energy.
Yeah, and I think. My questions do kind of get into vocation and ikigai and that kind of balance of how do you fulfill the needs that others have and the expectations others have of you. Sorry, I'm just like looking at how this is recording, and I hope it's recording okay. It, like, oddly it looks really quiet.
Can you hear me?
Oh god. That got really loud. But yeah, that
I want your listeners to hear my sultry voice.
Oh, okay. Cool. They do now. But
It's my favorite podcast interview so far.
I'm glad. I think it's very our energy. But yes, executive functioning, and I really appreciate the metaphor of spoon theory because there's a great distinction between, and we swear quite a bit on this podcast, and by we I mean me, but the fucks you give and like your actual capacity to show up for the things that you care about, and that distinction is so validating because like you can wake up and have a lot of responsibilities planned that you genuinely care for and you're excited about and you have ideas for, and you do not have the spoons to engage with it in that way. Yeah. And that still seems like a concept that is hard for people to understand if they can't personally relate to. So that's challenging.
Yeah.
But anyway, to zoom back out before we get to specifics like that, I thought we should start with how we know each other and why we choose to work together.
Why does Morgan choose to work for Jeffrey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, you sought me out as well to work for peer career coaching connections, whatever our proper title is. I'm so good at my job, you can't tell. But yeah, I don't, when you just crack your neck.
Forgot to be recorded.
This is just a normal conversation. Yeah, I don't know. I think very quickly there's a unspoken energy, I feel like, especially with neurodiverse people, of like, okay, this is a safe place. It's quite a bit of pattern recognition and like also listening to that like internal guidance system of emotions that you're just not in full panic all the time around somebody. Like maybe they're a safe person, but I don't know, we also just had such similar humor and passions and perspectives on the world, and I always wanted to continue those conversations.
Well, I think we connected pretty almost immediately after you came into COA, right?
Probably. I have no concept of time. Time
What
is
is
an
time?
option.
Time hasn't existed since 2016.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But no, I think it was because we connected pretty heavily when you came to COA, because we both came to COA around this pretty similar timeline.
Did we?
What year did you start at COA?
This is my 3rd year.
This is my 3rd year.
Really?
Yeah, we started at the same time.
I thought you were here longer than me.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
we started at the same
We've
time.
had this conversation.
Which is why
I
we
totally
connected so
forgot.
much at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we were both navigating this weird...
We're like an island.
Island college in the middle of Maine, off the coast of Maine, and we're like, what is this weird place? It's kind of magical, but also...
It's
what's going on?
Like, yeah.
And so I think that's what it started as.
What?
Am I your advisor?
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I'm your advisor.
Yeah.
And
I love that we don't know.
Yeah. Well, I can never remember who all is my advisees because I advise everyone.
But
But it's grown from this kind of just mentorship connection, really, like really just advising.
Mm-hmm.
We've grown into then became your academic advisor. Yeah. We've done independent studies together, and now you literally work on my career development team.
Yeah.
Because as I was building my thoughts of last year, I'm like, who do I want to be on my team?
Yeah.
You were at the top of my list of like people who have the right energy and bring the right vibe to a space.
Aww.
Because one of the biggest things that I wanted to make for your listeners who don't know, I'm the director of career development at College of the Atlantic, and one of the big things we're doing this year is starting we call it the Career Exploration Lab, and I have a team of peer career coaches who support other COA students. And so as I was thinking who I wanted to put in this team and the vibe that I wanted this space, literally the physical space to make people feel, and who the type of people I wanted to attract in, I was like, oh, Morgan has to be on my team.
Aww.
I was like, doesn't even matter what Morgan does, the vibe I want on my team.
I appreciate it.
Even though I know we never get anything done together. Like, it's
really
the vibe.
don't.
I'm like, but we bring a vibe. We need this vibe in the room, and
Yeah.
that's just as valuable as productivity.
Well, there's such a beautiful balance of, first of all, the spoon thing and respecting people and meeting people where they are and seeing that. But then also, like, we'll get into your research and the authenticity, which I think is really like the crux of everything. And then there's also just levity. Like we both really appreciate the humor in a situation, and that's like the only way to cope with the world.
I can't survive without humor.
Yeah, and I think that also just like parallel passions. Like, will we get to the work? Maybe, maybe not. But like,
we'll get to what needs to get done.
Yeah, and like caring about the same things and having research that overlaps and passions that overlap, and that is
neurodivergence that overlap.
But like kind of meshes into this I don't know, like project managing web of like what we collectively can bring to the table as a team and help people in a way that like
practical applied authenticity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, get the big fancy word.
Just came to me.
I love it. And see, like, we would do that. I had my friend the other day who was like, "Can you help rewrite my my email for an internship opportunity in like the fancy language that you use? Because I'll just say shit like that too." And yeah, those are the skills that
we're both good at reframing.
Yeah,
we both love a good reframe.
I think that's how. I mean, like, I never want to speak on behalf of anybody else, but like, how you cope with life and some of the things you get handed and thrown, and also come out the other side with like a decent self-concept and a decent degree of like autonomy and like trust in yourself that you can have some control over the circumstances, is reframing. Is, yeah, that might have happened in this way and my feelings are valid in this, but also this is what I have control over and this is what I'm going to take responsibility for.
Exactly,
and, yeah. So I also wanted to talk about, you've done a TED Talk.
I have done a TED Talk.
I actually have it saved to one of my playlists on my channel.
All your listeners should go listen to my TED Talk.
Yeah. What is it called?
Don't ask me that.
I can look it up.
If you look up my name in TED Talk, TEDx, it'll come up.
Jeffrey Neuhouser, everybody. So you want to talk about that a little bit? What was that experience like? What about your talk?
I mean, where do I even start? one of the hardest things I've ever done, and I love public speaking. I'm not a public speaker by any natural sense of the word. It's something I've forced myself to do long enough that I ended up being really good at it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that saved me working in education is getting over that discomfort with public speaking. But it's always been a goal of mine to do something like a legit TED Talk or even a TEDx on a campus. Or I looked at actually doing the TEDx Deergo, the big main one. Maybe that's next time. That's my next TED Talk.
Okay.
The silence you're going to hear in the recording is me looking up the name of my TED Talk. So the one that I did was called The Power of Authentic Human Ecosystems.
Yeah.
So I talked quite a bit about like what does it mean to be a human ecologist, but also what does it mean to have an authentic professional identity and actually navigate one's career identity authentically. It's really the basis of it. I'd honestly have to go rewatch it to remind myself everything that I talked about, but it was one of the most intense 17 minutes ever.
Yeah.
We were supposed to memorize the entire script. I spent, as I do, 80% of my time writing my outline and 20% practicing, so I didn't have time to memorize it.
Yeah.
They also, we submitted, I only knew that I was doing it maybe a month before I was doing it. Normally you'd have like a year for a real TED Talk.
Yeah.
I say real, a full TED Talk. This is real, it was TEDx, TEDx Seaway. It was a fantastic event, one of the best. But yeah, we had another one this last year. It also went really well, but I still I actually reference myself quite a bit, my own TED Talk, because it is really, it does a really good job articulating my core of my frameworks that I bring to COA, and that everything comes back to authenticity.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you spend so much time like researching and establishing that framework, like you need to touch back on it to be like, well, here is the context of why I've come to that conclusion and how that's helpful in this dialogue.
It's a weirdly fun thing once you have pieces of media like this to be able to assign yourself in a class. It's a weirdly
that's so weird.
It's weird, but also like very empowering.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god.
Like I've developed my own content. Yeah. And I'm this person that I struggle finding. I'm like finding the media, the book, the textbook, the videos that say exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And I have this really bad habit of I'll just do it myself. And so I'm literally developing my own books and TED Talks and recordings because I'm like, nobody else out there is making what I need. I'll just do it myself.
Well, I mean,
and use it for my own class.
You're naming a niche and you're filling it, which like that's following, your passion, your individual purpose. I do remember like the first time I got my own song stuck in my head. I'm like, oh, this is real. This is like I did a thing,
For a while after I gave the TED Talk, I was quoting myself. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, in my work.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned human ecology.
Mm-hmm.
That is what our school is about. That we all get a degree in human ecology, and it's kind of a running joke here that nobody can define that.
Yeah.
So what
are you
going to
ask me to define it?
Maybe just a little bit, but like, what is that? Like, not necessarily like what is human ecology to you, but like, how does that fold into authenticity in the workplace and helping students who have such diverse interests and building their lives and their careers in a way that, like you said, has this life balance.
It's an excellent question. I'm going to ramble and you're going to have to bring me back to like remind me what the question is probably a couple times.
No, you're good. I love it.
I always forget the question in the middle. I will start with a little bit of human ecology is this very niche topic, but when you actually look at the topic, it is everything. And that's where people kind of get a little, they push back because they're like, oh, human ecology shouldn't be everything. And which I actually kind of agree. So how I view human ecology, it's the intentional exploration of the ecosystems,
Mm-hmm.
looking intentionally at what are the connections between the ecosystems, how do they impact each other, what is the impact on the people, what is the impact on the natural and built environment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my interpretation of the official definition. It's barely any different, other than I put emphasis on the intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
I think what makes something human ecology is the intentionality behind observing the interaction. So then when I look at what the niche that you were referring to earlier for your listeners is what I call career ecology, which is the intentional looking at one's personal professional identity in relation to one's professional ecosystem. So how your personal upbringing has influenced how you think of yourself as a professional, how your education and other experiences has literally set the foundation of what you believe you can do. We don't talk enough about personal belief and how that relates to our upbringing. Everybody has examples of, for example, like boys can do that, girls can do that.
Yeah.
Like we're given these expectations in our society about what we can do, and then we believe that or we don't believe that.
Yeah.
Authenticity then is finding out what you believe you should do. It's all about your internal voice.
Yeah.
I usually use, in my own research, I talk about this mediation that happens between the external expectation, which I call professionalism, just for ease of words,
Yeah.
and the internal expectation, that internal voice. And there's this mediation between those two things, and as you become more and more what I call an authentic professional, you realize what you need, and you realize how to make your internal voice the center rather than these external expectations. But that's like our whole career is really just a negotiation of external expectation versus internal expectation.
Yeah.
And trying to push back on the external expectation and find spaces where we can work in that support our internal voice and our internal need, which is more or less what I would call authenticity. To really get into like the nitty-gritties, when I talk about authenticity, and you might even talk about this in your own research and your other episodes, but when people do research on authenticity, every single researcher will come up with a different definition of what authenticity is.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's beautiful.
It is
too.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, authenticity is so authentic. Like,
Well, look at that.
what I, in my own research, which was on the experience of queer college graduates, I actually developed a definition of authenticity with my research participants. It's a participatory research study. And the crux of what we called authentic was agency.
Yeah.
That's the core of what we said. If the more agency you have, the more authenticity you have.
Absolutely.
So it's the agency to choose how to show up or what not to show up. Because some people think that if you are hiding things that you're being inauthentic, and I actually take offense to that. I think authenticity and privacy are two different things. That I deeply believe in privacy, so I don't always share every one of my identities. But I'm still being authentic.
Owed every aspect.
Exactly, and that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Is that authenticity is recognizing that I have control over that narrative, and not everybody's owed every piece of me.
Yeah.
Like that's
and
I think
not learning that boundary
exactly.
And how like
I think it's a
doing
trap
that
we
for your
fall
own
into.
health is part of authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can fall into this trap that being authentic means we have to share everything with everybody, and I'm like, that is a trap. It is a myth. It is dangerous.
Fallen down that trap.
You will burn yourself out.
Oh yeah. And I think it's never been so pertinent as to like
agreed,
right now, especially when people are entitled to everything about you, and then simultaneously we are just expected to be so self-sacrificing for this like tit for tat kind of workplace, and instead being like, no, this is the kind of person I am, and these are the things I bring to the table, and this is what I have the capacity to do for you.
Yeah, and one of the examples I use to talk about authenticity and privacy, because my participants in my studies are queer, I often talk about like I am also queer, but I use the term queer I call it queer as privacy, because I don't necessarily want to say all of my individual identities, but I can say queer because that's a catch-all umbrella term.
Yeah.
It actually helps communicate that I'm in this community without saying I identify as gay and non-binary, and then people are like, what does that mean? How can you be gay and non-binary? Blah, 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 blah. I can just say I'm in the queer community, and people aren't owed more than that. I can be authentic about that without having to give them more information.
Yeah. It makes me think a lot about like the people who had become my chosen family and kind of validated a trauma experience, because I'm fewer minorities. I am white and, you know, like straight passing and all of those sorts of things. And so when it came to that like emotional validation, having people who were, you know, queer as a catch-all or like BIPOC or whatever, there was this simultaneous empathy and compassion, but also like an understanding of just how exhausting like having to explain the context for your entire identity and experience and why you are the way that you are and how you're showing up. And when you're talking, it reminded me of, I had a family member when I was probably like in high school, and I was just kind of in the crux of my like healing journey. Not that that ever ends, but you know, when it's like your whole life and, you know, all consuming. And they had said most people are who they are because of their circumstances. You are who you are in spite of them. And I think for me, that's been a huge part of authenticity is choice and, like you said, autonomy. And agency. Saying like, agency, sorry. Yeah. Both, personally.
Yeah, I was going to say both,
But that, the idea of the narrative, especially, I think that was a lot of my traumatic experiences, and why these groups of minorities were so validating came from gaslighting and projections and gatekeeping education and information and kind of retelling my story for me. And so being able to learn how to trust myself and say, like, actually, no, this is my truth and this is what I've experienced and this is what I want for myself. And to walk away from things that, like, you're taught that, like, love and support and community look this one way, and terrifyingly walking away from any concept of that you might have to try to find some semblance of something actually healthy. Yeah. Whew, that's a rabbit hole. So I think that folds into, you brought up your research, and I'd love to hear more about that and what you were saying about not necessarily believing in the work-life balance and queer professionalism, all the things that are in your research. If you could lightly touch on that, maybe not go down like the whole rabbit hole of your paper and work.
Yeah.
Not that you already haven't. You've said so much about it.
Well, it's because I purposely chose this job to apply my research. I was very...
intentional, shall we?
Yeah, very, very intentional. Like, I was finishing up my doctorate in the spring of 2023. That's when I started my search around December 2022, January 2023. And that was right... Bing. That's right when COA posted the director of career development job. It was right as I was finishing up my doctorate. So I actually interviewed...
It's crazy how things work out.
I know. Yeah. I interviewed here and then finished my last chapter when I got home.
Crazy.
And then I defended.
Wow.
Came here, started the job. Then I flew home for graduation and then came right back. Yeah, it was wild. What am I talking about? Oh, my research. So that study that I finished, it was actually technically a 2-year study. I did a pilot study in 2022 that was, I believe, 12 or 12 graduates, queer graduates, and they kind of served as the pilot, and then from that, I revised my questions a bit for the actual dissertation. So then I interviewed another 12.
Okay.
So I think overall I had 24 participants that I spent almost 60 to 90 minutes with each of them. I did let's see if I can remember this. I haven't read my own research in so long. A participatory grounded theory study. So what this meant, so what made it participatory is I had my participants actually do art projects. And you're probably, especially the listeners are probably like, how did you do a professional identity development project while doing art? And so I had my participants, I gave them the questions when they signed up for the study, and they got to do pre-work before they actually came to interview me or with me, where I had them, the prompt was along the lines of draw, model, describe, design a model that shows, that articulates how your professional identity and your queer identity have developed. So it was this very open question where they had complete control of how they would demonstrate this, not just in a, instead of like an essay, how could they literally pull it out of their brain as art?
Did you see like a lot, sorry.
No, keep going, yeah.
Did you see a lot of overlap between the identities, or were
Yes.
like a lot of the expressions
I
like
see what you mean.
Individual? Like
This is a great question. There was a lot of...
Immediately in my head I saw like the black and white of like a suit jacket, and then
Yes.
like the colorful of like identity and expression, and
Yeah.
like those are like
as far as
different
identities represented, I had the whole spectrum of queer, where I had trans, non-binary, I almost said straight, that's not true. Straight people weren't allowed in the study. It's one of the few times that we can exclude people. But I had actually, I was really happy with the gender breakdown. I had almost equal non-binary, trans, male identifying, female identifying represented. And then I had actually almost 50% of my participants were Latino. That was just very serendipitous. So I brought in some really interesting theories because they actually brought up a lot of pieces about identity that this overlap with queer and being a person of color in a professional setting, that I was like, ooh, this is the next study. Like if I was to do this study again, it would just be looking at the experience of people of color, queer people of color in workplaces, or the experience of trans people in workplaces specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just looking at the overarching big umbrella of queer identifying.
Yeah.
But both of those population groups deserve their own studies.
Oh, absolutely. So much of my chosen family
yeah.
has those labels, and it's such a unique experience.
Yeah. So the main things that well, let me start with, so the main things that prompted this study was actually my experience working in career development for about 5 years before I even started my doctorate, where I saw the inequity still happening all through all professional systems. Every layer, every industry, every part of the world, there's still... inequity is still rampant, and especially it's getting worse in this weird political climate we're in right now.
Could I ask real quick?
Yeah.
Like how has that shown up? Is there like pay differences, treatment differences?
Yeah. There's all of there's how people are treated in policy, pay, like think of even just professionalism in terms of how people are expected to dress. Yeah. There's very nuance about the pay discrepancy between men and women, for example. There's really interesting research that shows that when people transition, it actually demonstrates the pay gap, that when people transition to female, their pay goes down. When they transition to male, their pay goes up.
Yeah.
It's a weird phenomenon. It also happens when fields transition, when they become gendered. Like nursing, teaching, for example, were originally very male dominated fields. Once they became more female dominated, the pay goes down. Those industries are viewed as feminine, and as soon as something's viewed as feminine, think of when we say soft skills, you can actually code that as feminine skills. Those skills, those industries, because they're viewed as quote feminine, are paid less. They're not viewed as needed as much training, as being as qualified, et cetera, as quote male dominated fields. Yeah. Anyways, that all was stuff that was coming up, that was showing up in the inequity of fields, and these are the contexts that queer professionals are coming into, or queer graduates of college. They're graduating from college and they're coming into these very inequitable workplaces where they're seeing policies that do not support queer people. They're seeing the HR guidelines that are not supportive of their authentic way of dressing or acting or speaking. Insurance for family members, being able to be honest about partners and family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these kind of things that go back to our, most core of who we are, our chosen families. And, it's a lot of people will be like, oh, you don't need to be, talk about your partners and your family at work. Like that should be something that you keep at home. But then once you actually block that, you recognize how much you take out your personality from your professional identity. And this is something, going back to what I was talking about with this balance between, like this myth of the balance between work and life. I actually think if you see those as separate, you actually remove your humanity from your professional identity and from your work. And that, I think, you end up dehumanizing your work, and that's where we get burnout, we get inauthenticity, we get people who just do not enjoy their work and find any joy in it, is because they're removing who they are completely. And I'm not saying you should, I'm not advocating for workism, that your identity needs to be completely infused with your professional identity. My advocacy is that you don't see them as separate.
Yeah. My research had come to a sort of similar conclusion that, if I am not fulfilled mutually from a position of being in repetitive self-sacrificing situations to the point of the collapse of an sustainable system, that nothing that I actually produce from that state is of true benefit to somebody. It's like checking boxes of what I'm told is needed to be accomplished. But
let me go into some of the actual research findings.
Oh, sure.
So I think that's a good transition. So after, I interviewed all of these queer graduates. They were all the way between 5 years and 25 years out of college.
I thought you were going to say old for a second. I was 5 years old.
So I had participants everywhere from late 20s through mid 50s.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
I would like to someday talk to retirees or people who are in transition between jobs, so unemployment, in transition between fields, because I think that's just as valuable as a space to talk about. Because I think in general, people think a lot more about their professional identity when they're unemployed than when they are employed. And so I would like to talk to those people more. But anyways, the people I did talk to, what I found, I ended up with two main models that I developed. There was the Cupid model, which is Queer Professional Identity Development Model, QPID. So that one looked at, that finding was more about what does it look like throughout one's life cycle integrating the queer and professional identity. So it went through these stages of, you start with, you are focusing more on assimilation. That's your goal when coming into these workplaces, that how do I assimilate? How do I let the external expectation be the main voice? Then what happens is you move into this framework that's actually more exploratory. It's literally I believe the step was actually called exploration, where you're exploring and testing the limit of what am I allowed to do within my identity at the edge of the boundary of what's allowed. Usually when people get to the stage where they reach that boundary and they keep reaching it, they actually realize they need to find a new workplace. And so it's really hard, because that's people either then have to decide, do I want to keep assimilating, or do I want to find a place to work that's more authentic? And so that causes this crisis of needing to decide, does life dictate I need to stay in this position, or am I able to find something that's more authentic, matches more my authentic need? So Cupid was one of the models that kind of described the different steps. I probably should have reviewed my own research before coming on this so I could talk about all the steps. I will say the last step is the best. I call it the liberated frame of identity, where you see almost all of your needs coming from the internal voice. That you can see the external expectations, but you filter them all through your internal voice and internal need. And so those will be when you find positions where you get into continuous flow states, you love the work, it doesn't feel like work. This is when people reach that rare point where they're like, when you find a job that you love, you don't work a day in your life. Those are kind of this is what happens, where you feel authentic, where you're and I'm getting to that point in my current job, because I get so excited when I'm I get to go hang out with my peer career coaches today, I get to go do collaborative, beautiful work with other faculty, I get to talk to employers in the area about our amazing students and get them connected. these, like, what makes me feel authentic is start feeling excited to come to work, and like the work makes me feel fulfilled and drives my sense of purpose. And I also can show up authentically as myself. I don't feel like I have to mask with my students, that I can act who I am. I can be very queer coded. I can be very funny. I can be very empathetic with them. I don't feel like I have to wear a tie every day. I can, be fun, and you know me.
Yeah.
I chose COA I chose COA because of the vibe.
Yeah.
It matched my own. The other, I'm trying to think if I want to mention the other model. So Cupid was the main one that I like resonates with myself.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I did is actually what I use the most in my day-to-day practice, which was the EMPID, EMPID. It's the ecological professional identity development model.
Got it. Yeah.
So if you know anything about Uri Brofenbrenner's ecological systems theory, the model, the visual of this model looks very much like his. Mm-hmm. He was cited in my research, like he's one of the frameworks that I use. But I really started to think about, like, I don't think our career identity exists just as in isolation. It's really in a career ecosystem. So I've really been leaning into this language around your career ecology, your career ecosystem, your like thinking of the Brofenbrenner model. Like, you're at the center, but you have all these rings of ecosystems around you that all interact with each other. And it works thinking from your upbringing from childhood to college, but also post-college, because like you, as your professional identity was informed by all these, like the school system you went to, the state that you grew up in, the country you grew up in, the parents that you had, the jobs your parents had, and how they interacted with different systems, and all of those things informed you. And then you in your present moment are also like still being influenced by state systems and the schools you've chosen, the states you've lived in. So it's recognizing how your identity has been developed, how it's currently being developed, but then also how your ecosystems look moving forward. Because think of yourself as an example. By the time you graduate college, you'll have developed a network, and that's an ecosystem that you've developed that will influence your career ecosystem for the rest of your life. You'll keep building onto that ecosystem and adding to it and growing it and changing it and revising it and making it more authentic. So that's kind of the easiest way to think of, quote, career ecology. I call it career ecology when it's like the intentional looking at it. Normally I'm like, it's your career ecosystem. It's like thinking of all the different components that impact your professional identity and the work that you do. So those are kind of the two models, the one that I've now started to call career ecology, and then the Cupid model. I already talked a little bit about the authenticity versus your identity and kind of the mediators between those things. So that was another finding that kind of informed those models. So I'll probably stop the ramble there.
I actually recently came across a chart. I was trying to find it to compare to the Uri Brofenbrenner one. I couldn't, but it went along the lines of like your actions informed by your thoughts informed by your belief, and goes inward all the way to like identity and different layers of self. And obviously yours branches out more into like how culture and family and all these different aspects inform who you are. And
it's interesting that you mentioned, so one of the if you haven't looked up the model, the RMMDI, the reconceptualized model of multiple dimensions of identity.
Yeah, it's probably something very
It looks kind of like an atom, where it talks about your core sense of identity is at the center, but then there's all these rings around it with aspects, dimensions of your identity, and it talks about how when they overlap, that's like what is it called I'm forgetting what it's called when multiple identities intersect. Intersectionality. Thank you. That's intersectionality, but also it talks about how like when the rings, when that aspect of your identity moves far away, it's kind of like not in your consciousness. When it moves closer to that core piece, it's like in the forefront of your brain. And the part of that model that came into my own was that like there's this filter around it. Like who you are does not exist in isolation. Who you are there's so much nature versus nurture that like there's you as a biology. There's you. Well, you can talk about the biology that's passed down from generation to generation, but there's also how you were raised. And so, like, I thought a lot about my queer identity when I was in college. When I was in my doctorate, I thought about it a lot because it was what I was researching. But in my professional life, I don't think about it as much because it's just not something that's on the forefront of my mind. So in that example of that model, like right now, it's probably farther away. Even though it's very pertinent to me, it's not something that's on my mind.
Well, also,
but this is
you've
like
integrated it in
exactly,
a way that your lens is already that authenticity.
Yeah.
Your brain's like, okay, we have this concept as a part of our perspective, our identity, our lens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so where I'm connecting with what you're talking about is if I had to, well, hopefully someday when I get to rebuild the model and kind of reconceptualize it a little bit, the queer ecology model specifically, like right now I have multiple rings is how the model looks. It's this is the problem with the podcast is I need a visual.
I thought about that before.
Like if you think of a circle with these rings inside with you at the center, but these overlapping Venn diagram rings of family of origin, chosen family, professional ecosystems, and your educational ecosystems. That's what I at least include in this model. Where I would add layers is actually what you were talking about with the personal layers. Because I've been thinking about, like, I am a deep believer in, like, I have so many different versions of me.
Yeah.
And just because I have these versions, one version is not more authentic than the other. Which sometimes might not be true. Some are more authentic, but there's still dimensions of my authenticity. Yeah. Like I have a professional Jeffrey character I put on. It is authentic. Yeah. I love it. It is who I am, but it also makes me very tired because I'm naturally a very introverted person. I need a lot of introspection and quiet time. Yeah. But I still love being social. I love interacting with people. It's just I don't like saying that it's a character I put on or a personality I put on, but that is kind of what it feels like. I'm putting on a jacket.
Well, I mean, I've talked about that in the neurodiverse experience so much of like how deeply are we masking?
Exactly.
And if we're in that for so long and we're perpetuating that spoon depletion, then like even the self-care of like sitting and meditating, like our brain tries to debate us on that just because we're still in a character in a way. Yeah. Like it's stages of coming down from that.
Well, this is really good. This is actually a really good connection between the masking, putting on identities, and the spoons. Yeah. Because like I have to spend a certain amount of spoons to put on a certain identity.
Oh, absolutely.
It can still be authentic, but it still is going to take a lot of spoons.
Yeah.
So there are some days that I'm like, I just don't have the energy to put on that identity. Yeah. And so I have to be very careful sometimes because that can get me in trouble where I'm like, people expect me to be a certain way, and I don't have the spoons to act that way. And then people are like, what? Who is this person that is now hanging out with us? And I'm like, this is like the unfiltered me. And so people can debate me on whether like filtering or masking is, how authentic is that actually?
I think a desire to like protect yourself or the way that you cope, but there's nothing inauthentic about that.
Well, it comes back to my points about like privacy, protecting.
Yeah. Like where is that line for you?
And there are parts of me that I'm like, I'm really good at this. It's just not something that I would do on my own time. Like I joke, I'm a professional extrovert. People, you pay me to be social. Yeah. I love being social, but I want to get paid for it.
Oh no, most people, and I'm sure you can relate to this, most people think I'm like the most talkative person ever, and I'm like, I want to be nonverbal.
Exactly.
Actually, like entirely. You'll really appreciate how I got called out this week by one of my housemates. They were saying, I mean, as you know, we've talked about the idea of like safety and security and those kind of like relationships that are replenishing and allow you to unmask or to explore those parts of yourself that don't need several masks of protection. And they were like, maybe you like keep researching and understanding like the brain and energies and different like relationships and situations with people in a way of like trying to have something to solve or to control the narrative or to like fix something instead of actually surrendering and allowing security and safety in the way that you would have in those kind of opportunities and resources that you're looking for. Right. And we've talked about that quite a bit. That's always fun when you're like, yeah, I am perpetuating and existing within the cycle, and we all have limiting beliefs. And that's actually what came up in my mind because as you know, I see most things through the lens of my research as well. And when you were talking about, you know, older generations or retirees, like what comes to mind for me instantly is because of that constant pushback that you were talking about in that first phase of getting a job, I think a lot of people resign themselves to reality being external and happening to them, which can be really exhausting if you don't find that, you know, internal locus and, you know, being able to look at that through the lens of yourself, your identity, your own self-concept. And I think like that, the idea of like authenticity and the masks and things that we do, having a strong self-concept is probably the most protective thing that you can do, and it's also what's going to give you the most autonomy energetically. That like, you know, a shared consciousness, a shared reality is going to bend to the most self-certain person in the room, and not necessarily who is the truest or the kindest or you know, these laws of like what makes us feel like good and evil, bad, like all these like things that bring up emotions, which is this internal guidance system, is really just dictating like where on these infinite spectrums are we at, and like showing up as authentically as we can for our own identity without shaming or ostracizing the other things that need to be in the room. Because they're also part of the whole.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I mean, the framework that really started all of my research was Marsha Baxter McGilda's self-authorship theory, which I'm like, oh, shout out to Dr. Baxter McGilda. She's one of my favorite researchers. But this whole concept of self-authorship.
It hit me now that that's what I'm doing with my life.
But that's what everybody, that's our life goal is really, how do we become the author of our own stories?
How do we like write the narrative in a way that feels so true and not invalidating
and you're in control of it. That's the other thing. Like if you don't take control of your own narrative and if you don't become more self-authored, someone else is going to author it. Someone else is going to tell you who you are. And so that's one of my biggest goals with graduating students from COA, is that they have a high sense of understanding of who they are when they graduate, so that they are authoring their own story moving out of this college instead of having someone else, a corporation, an organization, authoring their story for them. That they can be in control of that.
And I think for better or for worse, so many students are coming here with that authorship stolen from them in their youth, and so they have like a real
not just here.
Vigor to
that's everywhere. It's a problem across society right now.
Unfortunately. And I actually did kind of want to get into like vocation and ikigai and things like that, because oh my god, the ADHD is kicking in. Where was I going with that?
Well, I will say I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of the directions that Gen Z and now soon to be Gen Alpha entering college in the next couple of years.
Oh my god.
how much they've run with this concept of authenticity and rejecting external control of their identities. It gives me, I'm like, oh, the kids are going to be all right. Like it gives me that sense.
No, I think like that is the crux of most like spiritual journeys, and I think it's also like the problem in a lot of political and social and economic issues is that like the robbing of, I think recently I've had a real trouble with in the workplace, the idea of this is how much your time is worth, and then I'm going to give you this externalized middleman of money to quantify that. And then, if you want to feed yourself, you're going to have to spend an hour of your life source energy on that sandwich. And like that terrifies me. And I think that that's honestly what we have the most difficulty with, because there's always this like narrative of these generations don't want to work, and I would argue that there's some of the hardest generations. It's not
that people don't want to work, it's people don't want to be exploited. They want labor exploited anymore.
They're passionate about what they do, and that's much more important and needed, like energetically speaking, even if it doesn't make logical sense yet, because it hasn't existed yet.
I feel like I yell at people that like we don't have to some people are like, oh, COA students don't make a lot of money after graduation because they're doing good work. Like there does not have to be the separation between doing good, authentic, meaningful work for social good and not getting paid well. I'm like, I think you can do both. You can get paid well and do work that impacts the world in a sustainable way.
And I say this like as a human who has tons of self-limiting beliefs as well, like control instead of surrender and things like that, but also rewriting your narrative down to the conscious level. Like if you're doing something you're really passionate about, you deserve to be compensated it properly. So let's believe that you can be.
Yeah.
Let's like collapse the probability of realities that is not showing up for you in the way that you're showing up for them.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about with I was thinking about money, because I remember, I don't even know when I started thinking this way, but thinking instead of like this cost $10, instead thinking this cost 30 minutes of employment.
Yeah.
And like thinking of
that's crazy.
goods in the amount of time that I have to work to get them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it that way, you're like, it really stresses you out about, national minimum wages. And I'm coming from Indiana, where we haven't changed the minimum wage since I think before 2009, and it's still at $7.25.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't
and
buy anything.
The economy's changed.
And you can't buy anything right now for $7.25. And I'm like, how many hours do people have to work just to afford a $15 meal?
Oh, no, absolutely. I've had this conversation a lot. For the past generations, the luxury purchase was a home or a nice car. And for my generation,
now it's
it
just
is
food.
Nice groceries. Yeah, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, we could go on forever, so I'm going to go to my wrapping up points. So I wanted to know what keeps your passion ignited and how you feel, like what your perspective and framing is on your ripple impact of what you do.
Ooh, that's a lot of questions.
I know.
That was too good questions. Do you mind saying it again?
Yeah. What keeps your passion ignited, and how do you feel about your ripple impact of what you do?
Let's start with number one.
Yes.
What keeps my passion ignited?
Yeah.
Honestly, people. As much as I'm like, I can spend, after scientific research of myself, I know that I'm way too neurodivergent to not research myself.
Yeah. Like, why am I the way I am? It seems to be a problem.
I'm like, why do I enjoy qualitative research so much? Oh wait, I am my own qualitative research experiment.
Yeah. Oh God.
So what keeps me? I'm forgetting the question already because we're rambling.
Passion.
More
footwork, more energy.
Yeah. I was about to more footwork and energy.
Yeah.
I was saying people. Like I know that I have recognized through decades of personal reflection that I need so much alone time. I tell my partner, I'm like, I need to budget about 2 hours a day of individualized, no contact.
That's conservative.
Don't talk to me time.
Yeah.
And there are so many days that I don't get it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm banking this for the weekend, and now I need literally all of Sunday or Saturday.
I just rot when I'm.
But I still. Getting back to the point of the question, I recognize about myself, and that my limit when I love isolation. I love a week of staycation where I don't see a single human.
That sounds so nice.
Favorite things: me and my cats, and some video games. For a week. Mm-hmm. Just get my snacks at the beginning of the week, never leave, don't go to the groceries, don't go anywhere, just hang out on this beautiful little island. I recognize my limit is 1 week.
Yeah.
At the week, I start to get cabin fever, literally cottage fever is what I call it, because I live in a little cottage. And I start having to see people, and I'm like, oh, right, I love people. I need to remind myself that other human energy exists. Yeah. And that reminds me that is one of the things that keeps me passionate. Like, I can't imagine doing professional work without people.
Yeah.
That's a lie. I can sometimes, because I was just talking to my partner about working with animals. But, like, it's really hard to imagine even working with animals. I'm like, but it's because I'm working with people. Yeah. Here at CU, what keeps me passionate is we have the best students. Like, getting to watch students like you, Morgan, doing your projects, I'm like, that keeps me coming back. Mm-hmm. It makes it so I'm like, yeah, they don't pay me enough. But it doesn't matter because I could go hang out with Morgan.
Aww,
like,
I'll just stop. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's just, honestly, the RCUA students they inspire me every day. Like, sometimes I'll go home in the evening and I'm like, almost in tears because of how proud of my team I am or the students I'm working with. And I'm just like, I have never met another group of students who are so passionate about social justice and making a sustainable change in the world that I'm like, these are the students I have to keep working with. Yeah. So that's probably the thing most right now that's keeping me passionate. And it's
about alumni is doing real work.
Well,
like,
and I was just about to say,
them.
like, we have so many good alumni, and our faculty, what our faculty are doing, and like we just this community here is, I cannot stress how amazing it is to people outside of it. Like they're like, this can't be real. You're just talking about this weird magical place. I'm like, but it's true.
No, it's honestly, I can't express
we have our problems, but it's such an authentic, just
the serendipity
the community here.
This collection of people is extraordinary. And to think that like everybody here, I think that they're reframing what academics mean, which is what gives 100%. Me hope, is that people are coming here with a genuine compassion and empathy and a desire for like whatever, like, you know, talking about how like life frames things for them. Like for me, if I really got down to the core of things, I was like, I don't want anybody to feel as alone or as confused as I did. And so you come here with this compassion and empathy, and then you're inspired by this community to, like, you want to learn because you want to know what the facts are and what you can do about them and what impact you actually have, and you want to take the reins of that autonomy and that agency. And to me, that's what education should be. And unfortunately, in a lot of other communities and circumstances, that has to be self-driven. But I think we are just in this like miracle bubble of people that just know that that's, for the most part,
well, it's been very I'm gonna, like, we have a certain subset of students self-select to come here because they come visit and they're like, and the people who aren't passionate about changing the world and building sustainable systems and conservation and blah blah blah, they don't come here. The students who are, they see the deep desire to do that here, and they're like, oh, this is my place, these are my people, and then they get involved with our alumni, and then then they're stuck for life. They're a COA student for life. No, and that's what I like to tell people. I'm like, once a COA student, always a COA student. Like,
absolutely. No, I want my work, especially the agency, to be in network with the people that I met here, and I would say like more than half of my network came through COA.
Oh yeah. And these are going to be the people that you work with for the rest of your career.
I hope to God.
Like I tell people when I teach the core course, I'm like, look around. These are the people you're likely going to be working. They're going to be in the fields and going through their professional careers at the same time as you.
Yeah.
Like, view each other as colleagues and supports for the rest of your life.
And that's not true of other schools.
It's not.
And simultaneously, these are people that are going around the world that are doing several different disciplines. Yes. And still, like, that kind of, I have a contact in this.
Right.
They have information.
And I will add that triggered a thought about one of the special things about COA is, more than anywhere else, really, because we're very intentional about this, is breaking down silos, seeing the connection between everything and not saying faculty versus staff. This is a staff issue, this is a faculty issue, or being like, this is a historical issue, not a biological issue. Instead, we're like, how does my understanding of biology and my understanding of history and my understanding of education influence how we answer this question or deal with this problem or make a sustainable solution? I love our deep desire for collaboration and tearing down silos. Like, that's what I think. That's why I think this is the educational model that everyone needs to be building off of.
Well, I think also it's so accommodating. Like, much of our education self-designing, there's so many independent studies, the way that we go about internships, the way that, like, even within the class, like, I have made my papers a revision of my own research, and I have asked for extensions, and from a place of, like, I'm not procrastinating out of disinterest, I'm procrastinating because I want to put more into this. Exactly. I want to know it. I want to be able to say that I learned from it. Yeah. And there's a respect for that here.
Yeah. Most of our students, it's really funny, most of our students don't struggle with internship applications and job applications because they can't find enough things. It's because they have too many things they'd be good at. Yeah. They have too many industries they want to go into and too many fields they want to work in. They're like, I don't know which one to pick.
In a place that supports that too, that, like, what we really need in the world is metadisciplinary.
Exactly. It's expertise.
Like, if somebody's going to build a bridge, you want somebody who knows how to build a bridge, not somebody who knows a little bit about many things, including architecture. But what we need is people who get the web, who get how things impact things.
People who know how the engineering of how to build a bridge, but also who understand how it's going to impact
the environment, the culture,
the urban landscape, the ecological environment, the weather. Like, they're going to understand how the weather impacts how the building of this. Like, there's so many things.
No, honestly, there's certain classes where people know, like, an insane amount of genus and species of different, like, plants. And it blows my mind what people have in there.
But, like, for example, when I did my master's in history, I sometimes joke that I was a historical ecologist. So I did a study on the colonial colonial America, lack of a better. So I looked at, between two research studies, I looked at every colony, the U.S. American colony up until the Revolution, and to understand what I was doing. So I looked at social order and gender identity in colonial America, but I had to look at legal documents. I had to look at church records. I had to look at court records. I had to understand the history and the politics of each colony, where the people came from, what government systems they were used to that they were building their colonies on. All of these things together finally gave me the understanding of the question that I needed to answer. And that's I learned how to do that and just through as a historian, but that's the same framework I've taken to everything. It's like, how do all of these different systems influence and impact the answer that I'm seeking? And that's what we're teaching here.
Yeah. No. And I guess
that's what you're doing with your podcast.
I hope so. I really hope it does that. And to attempt to tie a bow on the most metadisciplinary conversation we probably could have had, narrative, especially here in America, where, like, news and narrative and what we've believed and been told for so long, and then the individual narrative of all of these different minorities and identities that aren't properly represented throughout history, and taken advantage of because of how that narrative's written, or the access to that education and those resources. I don't know, just 2 cents on narrative. Like, how do you see its value and its effect on the interwoven web of humanity and our work here? That's the most chaotic question that we ever could have closed on.
I actually don't know if I understand the question.
I don't know if I understand the question, Jeffrey. I guess just the significance of narrative, like, given our political climate and, like, individual expressions and where we want to go with things.
Oh boy, I don't even know how to.
I don't either. That's
why I
asked.
Like, that's a whole other. That's a whole other podcast episode.
It really is. We should do that.
Narrative, which I'd be happy to come back.
I hope so.
On the Morgan Report. No, sorry. I was just listening to the Brodsky Report yesterday.
Oh my god, I need to.
Don't get me off topic.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll start talking about all the other podcasts we can listen to.
I know.
Narrative. I mean, it goes right back to authenticity. What is your authentic narrative? How do you self-author your own story?
Yeah.
How do you
when everybody's aiming to do it for you?
Yeah, exactly. How do you?
What accent was that? They're aiming to do it for you.
Aiming to do it for you. Straight coming from my homeland of Indiana.
Yeah.
The accent made me lose my train of thought.
I'm so sorry. Yes, narrative and our stories, our authenticity, the lens.
Yeah, and being able to control our own narratives, and like you have to learn how to accept your internal voice. I think I grew up in a culture where, honestly, my internal voice was guilted.
Oh yeah,
well,
the shame.
I grew up in a very no judgment on anybody who identifies as spiritual or religious, but I grew up in a very conservative religious environment where I was told what my identity was, quote, given to me by God. It was. Wow. It was an external thing. It was someone telling me how I should act, who I should be.
And that doesn't allow it to evolve.
No, and to the point where I thought that I had to, the adage of pray the gay away.
Oy.
Yeah, and I literally was like, oh my gosh, I've been given this piece of identity that isn't even accepted, that shouldn't even exist. Like, I viewed my narrative was that something was broken.
Yeah, like
and so
fundamentally flawed.
To be able to like as an adult to grow into this like, no, let me reclaim this. My identity is not broken. Mm-hmm. That is narrative. It is controlling your own belief about yourself. It's self-confidence. It's authenticity. Mm-hmm. I almost think I'm on the verge of saying there's almost nothing more important than how you control your own narrative. Because I see how you build your identity. It's how you articulate who you are, and like there is no way to understand who someone is except by the way that they articulate it.
Yeah.
So like you don't know my identity except how I narrate it. Yeah. I don't know your identity except how I narrate it / how I perceive it, but you fix the perceptions based on your own narrative.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that gets much into your answer to your question. Those are just some random thoughts about
and what you were talking about there of like how much a person can know. I've found that like when we go to seek connection with people, like whether that be friendship, romantic, platonic, mm-hmm. professional, whatever, there is a projection of what we're expecting and what we're assuming. And what I've found with this idea of unconditional love, of like, I cannot harm you without it harming me, is that we must replace what we assume of people with what they tell us they mm-hmm. are and who they prove themselves to be. Yeah. And then in that, love them for who they are, love them for the growth they might need, and also decide like, how compatible are the real versions of you? Yes. And like how much can you work with that? Yeah. And does that fit where you are? And like
that's changed my relationships. Like taking that perspective has changed how I work with bosses. It's changed how I have friends. It's changed how I literally exist with my partner.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've always had this like non-dualistic approach. Like to hate the other is to hate yourself because mm-hmm. it's all on a spectrum.
Exactly.
But you can acknowledge that like these are my desires and needs and this mm-hmm. is my narrative and what I want to surround myself with, and in a way that's as educated and compassionate and open to different things as possible. Yeah. This is the boundaries I need to set for me to love myself as much as I'm loving these people.
Yeah.
Ooh, so we fixed the world.
I think that's a good spot to
yeah.
for me to tell everybody.
Oh God, here we go.
You better keep listening to Morgan's podcast.
Aw, thank you.
I hope to come back.
You were my first in-person interview, and the first person who was like genuinely a friend that I've had for a while who I've interviewed. Gasp. So that's been nice.
This has been very refreshing. This is a nice conversation.
I'm like trying to take off my ID, and it's a tough magnet. Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
That's loud. Okay. All right, we're signing off now.
Bye, y'all.
Lovely talking to you.